This is a video in a series of videos about the Divi WordPress theme from Elegant Themes. The tutorials in this video introduce you to Divi 2.6, the latest release in the success story that is Divi. The tutorials are the Divi Builder Button Module, the Divi Builder Comments Module, the Divi Builder Post Navigation Module, the Divi Builder Post Slider Module, and the Divi Builder Search Module. Below the video you can find the links to these tutorials in this video. Besides that, you can also find the links to earlier videos about the Divi Builder and Divi WordPress theme, so you can always refer back to earlier versions and build your own website from scratch. All tutorials, as usual, are courtesy of Nick Roach, owner and CEO of Elegant Themes based in San Francisco. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below the video and we'll answer usually within 24 hours. Good luck with building your website with Divi and enjoy the tutorials. Here they are.
In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use the Divi Builder Button Module. You may have noticed that several of the Divi Builder modules already come with buttons. For example, the slider has a button, as does the call to action. But sometimes you just need to create a button all on its own, and that's where the Divi Builder Button Module comes in. For example, if I wanted to add a button below each of these three blurb modules, well then I could add the button using that button module. So I'm going to head over to the Divi Builder here, and underneath each of these blurbs I'm going to add the button module. So click the Insert Modules link, and then look for the button module in the list of available modules. And once you select the module, you'll be greeted by the module settings. And as with all Divi Builder modules, these settings are broken up into three tabs: General Settings, Advanced Design Settings, and Custom CSS. As a general rule of thumb, everything you need to build a really great website with the Divi Builder can be found inside that General Settings tab. But if you want even more control over the appearance of the module, well then you can venture over to the Advanced Design Settings, and here you have you can adjust basically everything about the module's appearance, from font sizes, text color, borders, padding, all that great stuff. And if you happen to be a CSS savvy developer, you can also jump over to the Custom CSS tab and write your own CSS rules and apply them to any individual element within the module, and even apply custom CSS IDs and classes. Now we have some great tutorials that go over how to use these two design tabs, but for this tutorial I'm just going to focus on the general settings. So I'm going to head back to the General Settings tab and go over each of these basic settings in more detail. First up, we have the button URL, which is the URL that the visitor will be taken to when they click the button. So you're going to want to enter that destination URL here. Next, you can choose how that link is opened, either in a new tab or in the same window. And you can adjust the button text. So you might want to say something like join today, or click here, read more, that kind of stuff. So whatever you want your button to say, input that text. And you can also adjust the text color. So if you're working with a dark section, then you're going to want to have a light text color for your button. And if you're working on a light colored section, you're going to want to have a dark text color. So in this case, we're working on top of a white section, and so we're going to want to keep our text dark so that it's readable. And then these last two settings are settings that every module comes with, which is the Disable On setting, which allows you to disable the module on particular breakpoints. For example, you could enable the module on desktop computers, but have that module disappear when a visitor comes and visits the page on a mobile device. You can also adjust the admin label, which will change the name of the module within the Divi Builder interface to make it easier to recognize what module is what, and to keep things a bit more organized as you're building your page. So I'm going to save and exit, and then I'm going to take a look at this button on the front end. And as you can see here, that button has been added. Below this blurb has my custom text, and it's a dark color and shows up great on that white background. And so to keep things easy, I'm going to duplicate this and place each of my duplicate buttons below the other two blurbs. And then I'm going to head back in here and just go over a few of the settings in the Advanced Design Settings tab just to show you the kind of stuff you can do with these design controls. Now, if at any time you want to get a preview of what you're working with, you can click the preview icon, and that'll render the module within the current section. And so here we get a list of all of our blurbs and button modules. And as you adjust things, you can kind of bounce back and forth between that preview tab to see what your changes look like. So you could adjust the text size, and you want to make it a little bit smaller. I could adjust the text color. The button font, you could change the font, maybe make it bold and uppercase. And if we go back to the preview, you'll see that the text size has been reduced. We have a different font, and it's all uppercase. And there's so much more you can do. For example, I could change the background color. Maybe I want to really change the appearance here and go for like a purple button with white text. I could remove the border, add a big border radius to round the corners. And there you go. I've completely changed the appearance of the button by making a purple background. I've added a border radius to round the corners, and I've changed the text to white. And we have that custom font and font weight and text transformation. So yeah, that's a basic overview of the button module, as well as a little bit of the advanced design settings. And I encourage you to dig a little bit deeper in those, and also check out our advanced design settings and custom CSS tutorials. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use the Divi Builder Comments Module. The Comments Module allows you to place a comment form along with all the current comments for the current post anywhere on the page using the Divi Builder. Of course, comments are already a standard part of every WordPress website, and they appear at the bottom of a post or a page when comments are enabled for that particular post or page. The difference here is that by using the Comments Module, you have more control over where that contact form or comment form appears on the post itself. So for example, I have a standard post here that I built with the Divi Builder for which comments have been enabled. And you can see that, as usual, the comment form is displayed at the very bottom here. Now, let's say for this particular post, I want this comment module or comment form to appear above our call to action. Because this call to action is more like, a part of our footer, something that we display in every single post. And it's not really part of the post itself. It's more a call to action for our website in general. And so I want to separate it from the post and place the comment form above the call to action module. On a standard WordPress website, this wouldn't be possible. The comment form would only appear as part of the theme itself, and you wouldn't have any control over the position of it. But since we've turned the comment module into a Divi Builder module, you now have that control. So if we head back over to the Divi Builder interface, this is the post we were just looking at, and I want to add that comment module above our call to action. So here's that call to action module I showed you. And so I'm going to add a new section above. I'm going to click the Insert Modules button and look for that comment module, which is right here. And clicking on the comments module will bring you to the comment module settings. And as with every Divi Builder module, these settings are broken up into 3 tabs: General Settings, Advanced Design Settings, and Custom CSS. As a general rule of thumb, everything you need to build a really great website with the Divi Builder can be found inside the General Settings tab. But if you want even more control over the appearance of this particular module, well, then you can venture over to the Advanced Design Settings tab. And this has all kinds of great settings that allow you to adjust every single aspect of your module's appearance. You can adjust the font, text size, letter spacing, padding, margin, colors, all that great stuff. And if you happen to be a CSS savvy developer, you can also head over to the Custom CSS tab, and instead of using our advanced design controls, you can input your own custom CSS right here. You can add custom CSS IDs, CSS classes, or input a CSS for any individual element within this particular module. Now we have some great tutorials that go over both the advanced design settings and custom CSS tabs. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to focus on the general settings. So I'm going to head back over here, and then I'm going to go over each of these settings in a bit more detail. And finally, I'm going to publish the page to show you what it looks like on the front end. So this module is quite simple. It displays the standard comment form along with the comments in the style of the Divi Builder. So the settings here are really limited to enabling and disabling things. So for example, if you don't want to show avatars, which are those photos that appear next to the name of each person in the comments, you could disable those or enable those. If you want to not allow people to reply to each other's comments, you can disable the reply button. And finally, if you do not want to show the comment count, then you can disable that as well, which is typically placed above the comment form. You can also adjust the text color. So depending on the type of section that this comment module has been placed in, depending on the background color of that section, you're going to want to choose either light or dark text. And since we're working with a white background in this case, I'm going to keep the text dark. But if you're using a darker background color, you'd want to switch that to light text to ensure that the comments were readable. And finally, we have the two settings that appear for every module, which is the disable setting, which allows you to disable the module on particular breakpoints. So for example, if you wanted this comment module to be visible to visitors who are viewing your post on a desktop computer, but to disable that comment form for mobile devices, then you could do so by disabling the phone and tablet sections here. And finally, we have the admin label section. This setting allows you to adjust the name of the module within the Divi Builder interface, which makes it a little bit easier to identify, especially if you're using multiple modules of the same type on the page. So you can adjust the admin label there. So I'm going to save and exit, and then we'll take a look at this on the front end. So if we view our post, you're going to see that comment form has been moved up above the call to action, and the standard comment form has been removed. And so you can place this anywhere on the page. You have full control over where that comment form appears. But not only is this just useful for switching the position of the comment form, it's also useful because it gives you more control over the appearance in the module as well, since the advanced design settings can be used to adjust it. So I'm going to head back over to that comment form module, and just very briefly, I know I said I wasn't going to go over this in too much detail, I'm going to touch on a few of these advanced design settings. And like I said, you can really adjust absolutely everything about the module's appearance here. And you can also, at any time, get a preview of your customizations by clicking the live preview button here. So that will show us the comment form. Well, to really show you how this works, I'm probably going to want to make a comment first. So I'm going to head back over to this page and make a quick comment. And go back to our module. All right, so heading back over those advanced design settings, and like I said, you can click the preview button here to get a preview of your module. There's my comment and the comment form. So we can do things like adjusting the font and font colors. So let's see here. So we can adjust the comment font to something else. We can make it bold, maybe bump the size a little bit. You can also adjust the text color. So just to show you how this works, this isn't going to be very pretty, but we're going to have bigger text. The text has changed to a different font. And also we changed the color to purple. Heading back, there's really just so much you can do here. You can adjust the comment field font as well. So if you wanted to maybe change this as well, make it bold, maybe make it uppercase. Maybe bump it up a little bit, adjust the text color as well. You can adjust the button styles as well for the reply button. So you can see our field font has been adjusted here. And yep, that's a basic overview of the comment module, as well as a little bit about the advanced design settings. If you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out our Advanced Design Settings tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use the Divi Builder Post Navigation module. This module automatically creates a link to the next and previous post based on the order in which your posts have been published. This is a pretty standard part of most WordPress websites, so you may be familiar with these links as they typically appear at the bottom of a post. But since we've turned it into a Divi Builder module, you now have full control over where those links are placed if you happen to be using the Divi Builder to create your blog post. So here's a post that I created with the Divi Builder, and just to keep things simple, I'm going to add that post navigation module to the very bottom of the post so that when people are done reading, they get greeted with a link to the previous and next post. And why this is useful is because it encourages more user engagement. They are now encouraged to continue to view more posts on your blog, which is great for you and for them. So heading back over to our Divi Builder, I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom, and like I said, I'm going to add that module as the last module on the page. So I'm going to click the Insert Modules link here and look for that Post Navigation module. So here it is. I'm going to select Post Navigation, and this will bring you into the module settings. And as with every Divi Builder module, these settings are broken up into 3 tabs: General Settings, Advanced Design Settings, and Custom CSS. As a general rule of thumb, everything you need to build a really great website can be found in the General Settings tab. But if you want to venture into the Advanced Design Settings tab, then you can have increased control over the appearance of that module. So there's a lot of additional settings here that allow you to adjust basically every part of the module. You can adjust fonts, sizes, colors, spacing, all that great stuff. And if you happen to be a CSS savvy developer, you can also hop over to the Custom CSS tab and adjust the design yourself using your own CSS rules. You can assign CSS IDs and classes, or you can type in custom CSS to affect any individual element of this particular module. Now we have some great tutorials that go over these 2 additional tabs, but in this tutorial I'm just going to focus on the General Settings tab. So I'm going to hop back over to the General Settings, and I'm going to go over each of these in a little bit more detail, and then we're going to publish the page and I'll show you what the Post Navigation module looks like. So first up is the In-Same category. This option, when enabled, will limit the links that are generated to posts that are in the current category of the post you're viewing. So if someone's viewing a post in your design category on your blog and they scroll down to the bottom, the links they see for next and previous posts will only link them to other posts in the design category. And this is great if enabled, especially if you have a pretty big blog with a lot of posts, because it will serve content to your visitors that is more relevant to them. So if you have a bunch of different, diverse categories on your blog, and someone reading the design post scrolls down to the bottom and gets links to things that are completely unrelated to them and their interests, based on what we know about them, which is that they are currently interested in the current post they're viewing, well, that can, maybe not encourage the clicks as much as if those posts were relevant to them. And so if you enable this, like I said, those posts, links that are generated will only be created for posts in the same category as the post that is currently being viewed. Now, by default, Divi comes with a couple different post types, which are projects and regular blog posts. But we added a field here to add support for other custom post types as well. So if you have some plugin that is registering a different post type, for example, WooCommerce registers a product post type. So if you happen to be placing this module on a product in your shop, you might want to limit the next and previous post links to other products. It would be quite confusing to users if they were viewing your store and they scrolled down to the bottom of a product and got a next product link that led to a blog post. So in that case, you can enable the in-same category, and if you're using a custom taxonomy like products, then you can type in that taxonomy name like that. In this case, we're just using posts, so I don't need to do that. And for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to disable this option. Next up, we have the ability to hide and show either the previous or next post links. For whatever reason you only want to create a next post link and you want to hide the previous post link, well then you could disable the previous post link and keep the next post link enabled, and vice versa. Next up, we have the previous and next link text options, which allows you to adjust the text that is used in the links themselves. By default, it'll just say previous post and next post, but if you want to change that, you can do so. Which kind of would make sense, for example, if we were using this on a product page and we wanted to say next product and previous product, well then you could adjust that here. Finally, we have the two options that are available to every module, which is the disable option, which allows you to disable and enable the module on specific breakpoints. So for example, if you want this module to appear on visitors, appear for visitors that are on their desktop computers, but not to appear for visitors that are using mobile devices, well, you could disable phone and tablet and leave the desktop enabled. And then we have the admin label option, which adjusts the name of the module within the Divi Builder interface, which allows you to more easily identify particular modules on the page, especially if you have multiple modules of the same type. And if at any time you want to get a preview of what you're working with here, you can click the preview icon down here, and then you can see what we've created here. And as you can see here, the post navigation links aren't showing up so well because this section happens to have a colored background. And so I think I'm probably going to adjust that a bit. I'm going to save and exit. And I'm going to add a new section down here and separate that post navigation module. And you can also preview things by right-clicking. So if I want to get another preview again, I can right-click. Whenever you preview a module, it displays the module along with the rest of the content in the parent section. So here we have our previous and next post links. And they're looking fine, so I'm going to publish the page. And then take a look at what that looks like on the front end. And if we scroll down to the bottom here, you can see that next and previous posts. Now just to hop back in here and give you a really brief overview of those additional tabs. If you do want to adjust the advanced design settings, there's really so much you can do here. You can customize absolutely everything. And so I really encourage you to play with these settings. For example, if we wanted to adjust the link color, maybe we want to make the link blue instead of the default accent color, which happens to be green for this website. You can do that. You can bump up the font size a little bit, maybe make it bold and uppercase and change the font too. And you can take a preview here. As you can see, we've made the text a different font, a different color, bigger. This shows up really nicely. And yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can do here. So be sure to check out those settings. And I'm just going to save and one more time take a look at our adjusted module on the front end. Scroll down to the bottom, and there we go. It's looking really great. People who scroll down to the page are definitely going to see that and be encouraged to continue to browse our blog. And that is a basic overview of the post navigation module. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use the Divi Builder Post Slider module. The Post Slider works much like our normal slider module, except instead of manually creating each slide for the slider, your slider is populated by your blog posts. Typically, this could be used to create a featured posts slider above your normal blog module, and the end result looks like this. As you can see, I have a slider here, and each slide in here is one of the blog posts that I have written on my blog. And there are various formatting options here, and the slider will look good just about in any column. And there's also a full width slider available as well, as you can see here. And so, for example, here I have a basic blog page, and above my blog module, which is displaying all my posts in the masonry format, I want to have a featured blog slider. And I'm going to replace this header here. And so for this example, I'm going to be using the full width slider, but the post slider comes in both formats. So you can create a full width post slider inside of our full width section or a normal post slider inside of a standard section. So in this case, I'm going to delete this full width header, and in its place, I'm going to add a full width post slider. So I'm going to click the Insert Modules button, and then look for the full width post slider module here. And clicking that will bring up all of the options for this particular module. Now, as with all Divi Builder modules, settings are broken up into 3 tabs. You have General Settings, Advanced Design Settings, and Custom CSS. As a general rule of thumb, everything you need to configure your slider will be available in the General Settings, but if you want to go on and have more control over the design, then you can venture into the Advanced Design Settings tab, and here they have all kinds of different controls for the design. And if you want to dig in even deeper and you have some CSS experience, then you can move over to the Custom CSS tab, and you can do things like add custom CSS IDs, classes, or even just input custom CSS for any particular part of the slider itself. Now, we have tutorials that go over how to use these different settings, so be sure to check out the Advanced Design Settings and Custom CSS tutorial if you want to learn more about that. But in this tutorial, I'm just going to focus on the General Settings. So I'm going to go back to the General Settings tab here, and then we're going to go over each of these settings in more detail. First up is the post number. This is the amount of posts that will be displayed in your slider. So typically you might want to have 3 to 5 posts. You don't want to have too many or else it will increase the page load. So for this example, let's just do 3 posts. Next, you can choose which categories you would like to display in this post slider. So for example, if you're building out a blog page for a specific category or a specific combination of categories, you might limit the categories to those that you want to display on that page. For this example, I'll just leave it open here and display all the posts. So if you don't choose any particular categories, then it's just going to display every single post in the order in which they were posted. You can also change the order in which they're displayed, either by the date they were posted on, either old to new, or alphabetically, or random. Here you can choose to display or not display the slider arrows. If you disable the arrows, then you'll no longer be able to navigate with the arrows, of course, but the little dot navigation at the bottom will still be available, and also swiping will still be available on mobile devices. Alternatively, you could keep the arrows enabled but disable those slider controls, which are those little dot navigation buttons below the content of the slide. You can choose whether or not to display the Read More button. Typically, there is a Read More button displayed below the title and the excerpt of the slide, and that, when clicked, will bring you over to the post. But if you want to maybe consolidate space, you can remove that, and instead the user can click on the title to navigate to the post. If you do have Read More buttons enabled, then you can customize the button text. For example, if you don't want it to say Read More, you could change it to something else. And if you leave this blank, it's just going to use the default text, which is Read More. Next up is the content display. This is either the excerpt or the full content of your post, which is displayed below the title. So if you head back over here to our example, this that I'm selecting here, that is the post content. And you can either display the excerpt of the post, which you input manually when you're creating the post. WordPress comes with an excerpt field that you can fill in. So you can customize that excerpt, or you can have Divi automatically truncate the post content and create an excerpt automatically, which will just take the first 250 characters of the post and add it to the excerpt here. Or you can display the entire content of the post, which you should be careful when doing, because it can create just a really, really huge slider. So if you do want to do that, you want to be particular in the post that you're displaying, and particular in the type of content you're displaying as well. But it certainly has its uses, so that is an option. So you can choose to use the excerpt or the entire content, and if you do choose excerpt, then you can choose whether or not you want Divi to use the custom defined excerpt if it is defined. And if you disable this, then it's always just going to use that automatic truncation. Now, if you do choose to have Divi automatically create that excerpt by selecting the first 200 or so characters, Well, if you want to change that to something less, for example, if you're creating a slider in a very small column width, 270 characters might be too much. So you can, reduce that down to 150, whatever you want to do. Next up, you can choose to show or hide the post meta. That is the author, category, comment count, and date that is typically displayed below the title. So you can turn that on and off if you want. Next up is background color. This is the background color of the full slider itself. So if you are using a dark background color, you're going to want to make sure to choose a light colored text here. And if you're using a light colored background, you're going to want to choose dark text. So just skipping ahead to that option really quick because those two are kind of related. Now also you can choose a background image, which will overlay that background color. So you can choose one or the other. You can also choose to have the featured image itself of the post used as the background, which is kind of the more typical use case, and that's the default settings here. So if you head over back to our slider, you can tell that each of these has a background image. Now that's being pulled from the post itself. So if you head over to any of these posts, you're going to see the featured image of that post is that featured image being used in the background. And so that's typically how we have it set up, but you can change that, of course. So going back here, that kind of makes these first two options a bit irrelevant, the background color and background image, because in this case, the background image is actually the featured image of the post. Now, if you disabled that and instead place the image to the left or right or top or bottom of the text, which is also an option, well, then those background colors and background images of the slider itself become a little bit more relevant. And I'll go over that in more detail later. Now, if you do use the featured image as a background image, you can choose to use a parallax effect. And if you enable the parallax effect for the background image, you can choose to have it either be CSS parallax or true parallax, which is just two different methods of creating that effect. True parallax uses JavaScript, while the CSS mode does not use JavaScript. And that parallax effect can be viewed here. So as you scroll around, that background image moves at a slightly slower pace than you're scrolling. And it kind of creates that depth of field, and it kind of that's the parallax effect. Next up is the background overlay. Now, background overlay is a colored overlay that is placed over your background image, but behind your text. And so this is typically used in the post slider because it ensures that your text will always be readable. So sometimes you can have quite a lot of busy images being used as your featured blog post images, because you're not necessarily thinking about using those as a background image for a slider. So here you can see that all these images have been darkened a bit because I have a slightly transparent black overlay over those images. And here I have a slightly transparent purple overlay, and here I have a slightly transparent blue overlay. But in all these cases, it's darkening the image, it's giving it a little bit of color, and it's making sure that this white text is always readable. If you were to take that away, it'd be a bit harder to read the text. And so by default, this is a semi-transparent black, but you can change that to whatever you want. Next up is the text overlay. The text overlay is similar to the background overlay, except it only adds that overlay color around the text itself, and this can be viewed here. So this slider has a background overlay over the whole thing, which makes it a little bit darker, and then it also has a text overlay over just the text, which makes the text a little bit more readable as well. So you can use those in combination or separately. Next up is the option to remove the inner shadow. Now, all sliders have an inner shadow around them, which is kind of a style that Divi uses. But if you want to disable that, you can. And finally, we have the automatic animation. If this is enabled, then your slider will automatically slide from slide to slide at a interval that you choose. So you can put the interval in milliseconds here. So if you want it to slide every 7 seconds, you can put 7,000 milliseconds here. And then every 7 seconds, that slide is going to slide to the next slide automatically. You can also customize this automatic sliding a bit by enabling the continue automatic slide on hover. So by default, when you hover over a slide with your mouse and automatic sliding is enabled, that hover is going to stop the animation. So for example, if someone's kind of reading that slide and they have their mouse over there, we stop that automatic animation so it doesn't like animate to the next slide right in the middle of them reading it. But if you want to force it to animate continuously despite being hovered over or not, well, then you can turn this on. And finally, we have the last two options, which are the options that every single module has, which first up is the Disable On option, which allows you to disable the module on certain breakpoints. So for example, if you wanted this slider to appear on desktop, but to hide it on tablet or smartphones, you can select those here. So if I selected phone and tablet, well, this slider is going to be visible on desktop and hidden on tablet and smartphones. And finally, we have the admin label that just customizes the label of the module itself within the Divi Builder interface, so you can find it more easily in the future when you have lots of modules on your page. Now, I'm just going to save this and so we can take a look really quick. So I've gone over the options. I've just left everything basically default, so you can see what it looks like here. And as the page loads, okay, so we have our full width post slider here with the featured image being used as the background image with a slightly transparent black overlay, and we have just 3 posts being shown and the automatic sliding enabled. Now going back here, I'm just going to customize a few of these things so you can see what the various options do in more detail. I know there's a ton of options here, and some of those descriptions might have been a bit difficult to comprehend without a visual. So I'm going to go back to some of these and kind of show you exactly what they do. And while you're editing a module, if at any time you want to get a preview of what that module looks like, you can click the preview icon here. And you can even bounce between our responsive testing tabs to see what that module looks like at different sizes. So going through these options here, I'm going to skip down to a bit of the more complicated ones. First up being the image placement. So as I mentioned before, by default, the full width post slider uses the featured image of the blog post. Now that's the image you define as the featured image. Now all posts can be assigned a featured image. It's a standard feature of WordPress, and Divi takes those featured images and it places it at the top of the post, and in this case it uses it as an image for each slide. And you can take that image, you can either put it as the background or you can put it to the left, right, top, or bottom of the post text. So for example, if I put this on the left instead of using it as a background, and then I change my background color to something like purple, and I previewed it here, you're going to see that the background image is gone, and it's letting that default purple show through, and then the image has been placed on the left instead. And you can also place that on the right, or top, or bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back as the background image. Next is the background overlay. And like I said, this is a background color, but instead of it being a normal background color which sits behind the background image, it actually sits on top of the background image. And it allows you to kind of soften that background image up by using a semi-transparent color. So it can add color, but it can also kind of make the contrast a little less, which makes the text above it show up a little bit more easy. And so by default, like I said, it uses a semi-transparent black. We could change that to something else, for example, a semi-transparent purple. So I'd take that, select that purple color, bring down the opacity maybe to around 60%, and then preview that. And you can see we have this purplish color. It's fading out the image a bit. And just to give you an example of what that would look like without any background color, if we make this fully transparent, this is kind of what the text would look like over a standard background image. And you can see it's really hard to read over the woman's face here because that white text is not really visible over her white glasses and her light hair. And so when we put that background color on, it makes it a lot more readable. So here I'm using kind of like a dark purple, 80% opacity. You can still see that background image a little bit through the background there, but the text is much more readable It's just generally a safer route to go because you don't have to worry about choosing background images and, kind of tailoring where the main imagery is and thinking about where the text is going to be appearing over that image. So that's what that background overlay does. And next is the text overlay. So if I had, removed this background overlay to be fully transparent, and like I said, the text becomes very hard to read, as we can see again here. The text is very hard to read over her face. Well, another option is to add a text overlay. And so you can do that here. You can enable text overlay. And just like before, we can choose a background color. So here I can choose a semi-transparent black. And when I do that, you're going to see that around that text, a black box appears, and it's semi-transparent, so you can still see through and see that background image. It's not too obstructive, but it does ensure that the text will always be readable. So that's another option as well. And just to touch on these advanced design settings and custom CSS tabs, like I said, there are other tutorials that go over these in more detail. But just to give you a basic idea of what you can do here, you can customize just about everything in the module. Every single element can be adjusted. You can adjust colors, sizing, spacing, fonts, all that great stuff. So if we go over to the header here, if I want to change that header font to something else, you can do that. I can make it bold and all caps, maybe size down the text a little bit, and then you can get a live preview here, and you can see that text has changed. It's been set to all caps, and it's been made a bit smaller. And you can customize every single element just like that. Yep, so that's a basic overview of the post slider module. And like I said in the beginning, the post slider is available in both full width and standard width. So in this case, we went over a full width slider, but you can also add standard size sliders as well. So if you want to insert a module here below our blog, you can find the standard post slider here. And that is the basic overview of the post slider module. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use the Divi Builder Search Module. The Search Module quite simply adds a search form to your page that allows your user to search your website based on specific parameters that you set within the module settings. This is much like the search widget that you might be used to adding to your sidebar and footer area, the only difference being that this is a Divi Builder module, which means you can place it anywhere on your page. You're not limited to your widget-ready areas. Now, for example, here I have a basic shop built out. And let's say above the list of products here, I would like to add a search bar. To do that, you can use the search module. So I'm going to head over to the builder page here, and right above the shop module, I'm going to insert the search module. So I'm going to click Insert Modules and look for the search module, which will be down towards the bottom here. And clicking the search module will bring up the various module settings. As with every Divi Builder module, the settings are broken up into 3 tabs: General Settings, Advanced Design Settings, and Custom CSS. As a general rule of thumb, everything you need to create a great website using Divi can be found inside the module's General Settings tab. But if you want to get a little bit more advanced and adjust the design a bit more, then you can hop over to the Advanced Design Settings. And here you can adjust absolutely everything. You can adjust colors, sizing, spacing, fonts, all that great stuff. And if you want to get even more advanced, you can jump over to the Custom CSS tab, which allows you to apply CSS IDs, classes, and also custom CSS for every individual element within this particular module. Now, we have some additional tutorials that go over these settings in a bit more detail, so be sure to check those out. But in this tutorial, I'm just going to focus on the General Settings tab. So I'm going to hop back over here to the General Settings and go over each of these settings in a bit more detail. And when we're done with that, I'll build out the module with a couple different configurations to show you how these different settings work. So first up is the text color option. If you're creating a search module on top of a light colored background, you're going to want to use dark text and vice versa. You can also adjust the text orientation, whether it be left, right, or center, and this will adjust where the search module is placed within the row. Within the search results, you can also customize what appears in those results. So you can have the search module exclude pages or exclude posts. If you want to just search posts or just search pages, that's possible. And you can toggle those on and off. For example, I might want to exclude pages here since we're really just dealing with posts and not pages. If you are including posts in your search results, you can disable certain categories as well. So here's a list of all the categories I've created, and I can toggle any of these off. And if I, for example, toggle off the design category, when someone searches using this particular search widget, no posts from the design category are going to show up at all. So you might want to tailor your search widget or your search module to the actual page you're working with. So if you're on, your portfolio page, for example, and you have a bunch of posts in a design category, you might want to exclude everything except for that design category. So when they search, they get a more intuitive list of results. You can also choose to hide the search button or show the search button. If it's hidden, then the user will have to press enter to search, but that's pretty common. So if you want to make things a little bit cleaner, you can turn off that search button. You can also adjust the placeholder text, which is the text that appears when no text has been entered into the search module yet. So you might want to say search the site or search here, that kind of stuff. If you leave it blank, then the default text will appear. And finally, we have the two settings that every module comes with, which is the disable setting, which allows you to disable the module on certain breakpoints. For example, you could enable the module on desktop, but disable it on phone and tablet, or any other combination that you see fit. And finally, we have the admin label, which simply adjusts the label on the module itself within the Divi Builder interface to make it easier to identify what this particular module is. And if at any time you want to get a preview of what you're working with, you can click the preview icon here, and that'll show you all the modules within your current row. So I have our shop module, and then below here we have our search module, and so that's what it looks like so far. So I'm going to go ahead and save and exit. And I'm going to drag that search module to the top because I want it to be at the top. And I'm going to click update, and then we can take a look at our page. Let's head back over here and refresh. And you can see the search module has been added to the top. Now by default, the search module takes up the full width of the column. So in this case, I'm using a full width or a one column row, which means that this search module is going to extend the entire width. But if I want to adjust that, I can do that as well. So I might want to add a new row here, make it a quarter column or a third column, try quarter column, drag it up, and I can place the search module over here instead. And this is a bit closer to what I was hoping to do. It even matches up with the grid here and looks a little bit better. So heading back over to that search module, just to show you a couple more of those settings and what they do. For example, hiding the search button, if I were to do that. And like I said, at any time you can get a preview here. So if I hide the search button, take a look here, the search button's gone. If they search, they would have to click enter instead of clicking the button. The placeholder text, I could enter some placeholder text. And like I said, that'll be placed here before text is written. And when you write text, it'll overwrite that. So I might want to search products, etc. And just to touch briefly on the advanced design settings, I said I wasn't going to go into those in too much detail. But just to give you an idea of what's possible here, you can really adjust absolutely everything about the module. So you could adjust the colors, for example. Maybe you want to adjust the font. So we could change the font to something else. Let's choose Arvo, and I could also make it bold and uppercase. And I want to even adjust the font size a little bit, make it a little bigger. And then you can also choose different colors as well. So I could adjust the input field background color. Maybe I really want to make this completely different, make it a solid background. Maybe make the border color solid as well. And then make the text color light instead. So maybe make this white. And we can take a look there. I should have a purple search widget now with some bigger text and a purple background. And so yeah, it gives you an idea of what you can do with the advanced design settings here. So I'm going to update and take a look at the final result here. There we go. As you can see, I probably made that text a bit too big for the placeholder text we're using, so we can go back and adjust that if we like. But yeah, it's just an example of how you can use the advanced design settings to completely change the appearance of the module. And that is a basic overview of the search module.